Origin just home studio reaction. This is if the YF-23 was so good, why didn't it go into production? My channel Sandboxx. Yes, another Sandboxx video. People have told me that this is one of the best guys who knows things, knows people. Apparently, and he's an expert. I've watched a few videos from him. I felt like didn't I watch a F-23 video from him, or was it another channel? I don't know. I can't seem to find a YF-23 video on my channel, but I'm pretty sure I remember watching a video about that. Maybe title was different or something. But as far as I know of F-23 or YF-23 is that there were like some limitation of it. Obviously, Northrop is insane. Those people are insane with the technology, right? Not that the F-22 people are not like, why am I forgetting the name of the company? But yeah, not that their people are not insane, but yeah, Northrop is just like, look at the B-2 stealth bomber with their like heat dispersion technology and all that, just so it doesn't have a heat signature and all that. I'm pretty sure YF-23 would have had some similar thing. YF-23 is really good compared to F-22 in some areas, but I feel like overall F-22 was like so good, and especially for the job he was supposed to do, so they won the contract in the end, right? So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Japan one that they're making is YF-23 basically, but updated. That's the case, right? Japan's new stealth bomber 5th generation. But yeah, this is gonna be awesome video because I know Sandboxx knows people like experts and things. He meets them and things. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have his expert take here and go in detail like why YF-23 didn't go into production compared to F-22. What limitations were there? So let's wait on. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. That way you can really help out this channel by helping the algorithm and things. If you want me to react to any specific video, definitely comment down. I'll react to it eventually. And yeah, let's watch this one.
So was Northrop's YF-23 actually a better fighter than the F-22 Raptor? And if it was, why didn't it win a production contract? These days, you'll find lots of people online telling you that the YF-23 was the superior jet, and that Lockheed won the Advanced Tactical Fighter competition through more dirty politics than brilliant engineering.
Yeah, people do say that.
And while there is some truth to that, reality, as is so often the case, is a lot more nuanced than this narrative would make it seem. So let's talk about the YF-23, the YF-22, and the competition between these two aircraft, because the truth is, the YF-22 wasn't just a really good choice, it very likely was the right one. All the way back in 1981, the U.S. Air Force kicked off its Advanced Tactical Fighter program aimed at fielding a new stealth air superiority fighter so capable it could even outclass America's already legendary fleet of F-15 Eagles. And they got pretty immediate buy-in from just about every major aerospace firm in the country.
You know what? I just realized, like I've been saying like F-22 is untouchable and they're already going to NGAD. But wait a minute, F-15 is untouchable. Like, literally there's no case that it was ever shot down in a dogfight or something. That's how powerful F-15 is, right? And F-15 was sold to like other countries as well, so it's not just a US thing. Other countries are using them so well that they've never been shot down in that way, right? I mean, they've been shot down, but not that way, right? Like air dominance, dogfight, and things like that, whatever. So F-15 are that good, right? And the F-22 replace that. Of course, that's good. And GAD is going to replace that. They're all untouchable in a way.
Receiving at least 19 design proposals for this new stealth fighter. But by the end of the year, they had already whittled it down to really just two competitors, Northrop and Lockheed, both firms that were already building stealth aircraft for Uncle Sam. But because of the sheer scale of this effort and the need for a wider stealth industrial base, a couple of those losing firms teamed up with the two winners. Lockheed teamed up with Boeing, and Northrop teamed up with the F-15's own designer, McDonnell Douglas. And you might think that would be an advantage in this sort of competition.
All of that, didn't McDonnell Douglas and Boeing, right? They both of them like merged, right? That's what happened? I'm guessing that happened after this. Wait a minute, that did happen, right? Yeah, that did happen, I think.
But it probably didn't shake out that way. Over the next decade, Lockheed and Northrop continued to refine their stealth fighter designs, culminating in a fly-off of sorts in late 1990, heading into early 1991, that saw Lockheed's YF-22 represent a fairly conventional approach to fighter design, with newly added stealth design elements incorporated throughout, and thrust vector control for improved aerobatic maneuverability, competing against Northrop's downright alien-looking YF-23, with its pronounced duckbill chin, its diamond wings, and its all-moving V-tail that offered not just a smaller radar cross-section than Lockheed's entry, but better unrefueled range. Lockheed's YF-22...
That is what I'm saying, like Northrop are so insane that they make everyone like a bit, they make them seem far behind, right? At least like with the places they have advantage on, it feels like really insane. Like I said, like, you know, heat dispersion thing they have with B2, same thing they have like B21, the newer one, right? And I'm pretty sure they would have same thing with the YF-23, and it's just like many techs the YF-23 had was like very different, right? And like really insane. So Northrop has always been like that. So that makes me think like how different the Japan's 5th generation will be compared to NG-80 or something that they developed in 6th generation one.
On the other hand, offered a higher top speed and a slight edge in maneuverability. But according to Paul Metz, the only test pilot to fly both of these aircraft, the YF-23's all-moving V-tail had such massive control surfaces that it nearly entirely compensated for the aircraft's lack of thrust vector control, falling only just short of the YF-22's maneuverability. And that sort of became the story of this whole competition, because these two aircraft were genuinely pretty evenly matched. Northrop would edge out Lockheed in some performance metrics, only to have Lockheed edge out Northrop in others, and usually neither did by all that much. Both aircraft had a top speed of Mach 2.2. Both had a service ceiling of 65,000 feet. And while the YF-23 famously had a slightly smaller radar cross-section, the F-22 Raptor has a radar cross-section of 0.0001 square meters, meaning we're talking about the difference.
Yeah, but isn't the 5th generation all about stealth? And shouldn't stealth be the overwhelming factor? And if YF-23 had better stealth, why didn't that win? It's like, it's better at stealth. You're trying to make a stealth fighter. And every other thing is like closely matched anyway, so shouldn't that automatically win?
Difference between a very tiny pebble and a slightly tinier pebble. The YF-23 did have slightly better unrefueled ferry range at 2,400 miles versus the YF-22's 2,000 miles. But the YF-22 performed more aggressive aerobatic maneuvers, hitting 7.9 Gs in testing versus the YF-23, which only hit 7.1. But it's important to note that that might have had more to do with salesmanship than actual capability, with Lockheed understanding the importance of demonstrating the aircraft's incredible aerobatic maneuverability to leave an impression on decision makers, versus Northrop, who had no interest in those sorts of theatrics and stuck to an all-business demonstration, which may have actually hurt them in the end. Both aircraft were designed to accommodate...
Okay, you have a contractor. You have a contractor or US government who's going to decide, and that's the moment you think, oh, let's be professional. Let's not be too flamboyant. You're supposed to show your like full capabilities. Make sure your plane reaches its limit to show them like what it can do. Like that was stupid.
Accommodate the same weapon systems, 4 AMRAAMs, 2 Sidewinders, and an M61 Vulcan. And at the end of the day, the real truth is either of these aircraft would have been an excellent choice. They both had what it took to become the basis for an entirely new generation of fighters. They were so advanced and broadly capable by comparison to literally every other fighter on the planet that they were sure to become the basis by which all future fighter designs were compared. But the Air Force could only pick one. And with their performance so evenly matched across the scoreboard and literally tens of billions of dollars on the line, the Air Force had to look at this decision from every angle. And that includes a lot of stuff, good and bad, that happened far removed from the advanced tactical fighter competition. By December 31st of 1990, all the flying was done, and both firms submitted their...
Yeah, no, I just realized, isn't like Northrop known for like delays and like increased budget with the B2 and things? I guess they thought like, okay, Northrop probably going to be more costlier in the end than the Lockheed one. I'm thinking that, right? Does Lockheed have better reputation on that front? Like they're gonna do the job done at claimed or around the claim whatever budget they put forward compared to Northrop? Because that could be the reason, right? That could be one of the reasons, like budget and like availability of parts and things, like how easy it is. I don't know.
Their final production proposals to the Air Force for consideration. And a bit more than 4 months later, on April 23rd of 1991, they announced their decision, awarding the contract to Lockheed to mature their YF-22 design into today's operational F-22 Raptor. But in order to understand how external factors took what was a very close race and made it something of a sure thing for Lockheed, we need to think about what was going on in the country and around the world in the years leading up to 1991, and especially in those 4 months the US Air Force spent making their decision. You see, by 1991, Northrop was on the tail end of some 2 straight decades of scandals and controversies, starting in the 1970s when they were very publicly accused of making illegal campaign contributions to the Nixon presidential campaign, to doling out some $30 million in bribes to foreign government officials to help advance sales of the F-5. And then in the 1980s, Northrop employees were indicted on charges of falsifying test results and providing faulty equipment to the Air Force's MX nuclear cruise missile program. And in 1990, Northrop itself pled guilty to some 34 separate fraud charges, resulting in more than 17...
See, this kind of pisses me off. Like, why do all that? You're insane. Like I said, I'm constantly saying insane, but what I mean is like you're too over the top, like much more than anybody could expect. B2 is ridiculous. B-21 is probably going to be ridiculous as well, right? Northrop has made planes that like, what the fuck, like feels completely different than competitors, and in some areas way too ahead, right? If you're like that, why do all these things with the, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the politics of all this, but still, like if you're good at something, right, you're mechanically and in every way just like better, right? You don't need to do all this shit, right? You're just better. People need you. You're going to be fine, right? So I don't get all these problems. If anything, this hurt them in the end. Like they could have had a F-23. Instead, like Lockheed got the contract because of all this.
$1 million in fines. And while Northrop and Lockheed both had stealth aircraft already in the works for the US military, by 1991 the B-2 bomber program was so far behind schedule and over budget that it was facing potential cancellation. And to make matters even worse for Northrop, their partner, McDonnell Douglas, wasn't doing any better. They had secured a contract 8 years earlier.
They're not doing any better. I remember, I don't know, I've watched so many videos, I'm forgetting, like, McDonnell Douglas is so bad that because they joined with Boeing, anything that came after that, after the joining of McDonnell Douglas and Boeing, that was shit, right? I'm guessing that's 737, some version of it. The bolts flying off and all that. I don't know which video I watched, but that's something like that. And that's after the merger of McDonnell Douglas, because they care about like money and paper in there rather than actual engineering and technology, right? I think that was the case.
Earlier in 1983 to develop the Navy's first stealth fighter in the A-12 Avenger II. But by January of 1991, it was so far behind schedule, so overweight, and so over budget that it became a scandal unto itself, facing cancellation at just about the same time the Air Force started considering which firm to pick to build their new stealth fighter.
Damn.
And conversely, 1991 looked very different for Lockheed. You see, not only did Lockheed already have a pretty well-established track record when it came to cutting-edge aviation programs, with platforms like the U-2 spy plane and SR-71 Blackbird already under their belt, but in January of 1991...
Wait a minute, isn't F-15 is also Lockheed, right? And F-15 was untouchable. It still is, but even at the time it was untouchable.
Another historical event took place that also shined a pretty positive light on Lockheed and their stealth aircraft designs. That event, of course, was Operation Desert Storm. The U.S. deployed just 36 F-117s to Desert Storm, making up only about 2.5% of the combat aircraft in theater. But over that 2.5-week air campaign, those F-117s engaged some 40% of the targets inside Iraq,
Look at this
flying
shit.
1,300 combat sorties to take out 1,600 separate targets without a single aircraft lost. Lockheed's stealth jets operated with such impunity over Iraq that Senator Sam Nunn.
Well, hold up there. These Nighthawks, these are Lockheed's plane. And these were the first stealth bombers. So Lockheed had that technology. How did Northrop develop B-2 then? Did Lockheed give them the technology? How would that work? I don't get it. Like, if you develop the first stealth plane, wouldn't you be the one that who like develop better one next time? How did Northrop make B-2 compared to this? I don't get it. And how did Lockheed didn't get the contract for something like B-2?
The chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, called it the heart of our offensive power. And General Buster Glossop called the F-117 the backbone of America's strategic air campaign. And what all this means is that from January to April of 1991, the Air Force was left to consider Northrop's YF-23 design proposal that came with their multiple decade-spanning run of scandals and controversies and their recent budgetary mismanagement of a stealth aircraft, versus Lockheed's YF-22 proposal
this
and
is
their
a slam
very
dunk.
recent demonstration of extreme stealth combat prowess in Desert Storm. And while the branch has not officially said that any of this played a role in their decision, they did say that they chose Lockheed because they had more confidence in Lockheed's ability to produce the aircraft they needed and the numbers the program called for. At the end of the day, the YF-23 was a genuinely incredible aircraft, and maybe one of the few fighter designs in history that can stand and swing with the Raptor. But the YF-22 just seemed like the safer bet, and it's worth remembering that that YF-22 design ultimately matured into what is now the most dominant air superiority fighter on the planet. It certainly wasn't a bad call. So, was the YF-23 the better fighter? We may never know, because we never got to see an operational F-23 manifest. But the race between prototypes was so tight, it may really come down to your personal preference. But awarding a multi-billion-dollar fighter production contract is about more than just comparing specs on a stat sheet. It's also about political buy-in, public support, program management, and a bunch of other stuff that's just not as sexy to talk about, but just as important when it comes to a program actually coming to fruition. And before I sign off, I just want to let you guys know that I posted a poll over in our community tab to see how many of you nerds out there are active or reserve military, veterans, or civilians, just because I'd be really interested to find out.
What if somebody lies, though? But wait a minute. It's a 1.7 thousand votes. I mean, it makes sense, like, among those, right? Yeah. Okay. Look, man, it's about credit, right? That's what, whenever some bank guy is going to give you a loan or something, or I don't know, anything like that, right? Overdraft or whatever, right? They're thinking of giving you, they will check for your credit of all, like your history and everything, banking history, things like that. So in the end, it's about credit. How much credit you have, like reliance, right? If you have a bad record, if you are surrounded by controversy, currently your record is not good, people are not going to risk their thing towards you. Like, it's not just about the money as well, it's about the time, money, and defensive thing, right? You don't want to find out like F-23 has some fatal flaw because Northrop was like surrounded by some controversy, like they were tight in budget or whatever, like they missed time and just like rushed things. So I guess like that was the best decision with the Lockheed, right? That just makes sense. As far as the mechanically, which one is better, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure Japan, did they give the contract to Northrop or something? But they're building, which basically would have been like YF-23, but now in somewhat modern, right? I'm pretty sure they're doing that. So we'll know it with that, right? Like some simulation things will tell us, or at least like friendly thing will tell us between Japan and US, like which one is better, who knows? But yeah. Right, well, that was, if the YF-23 was so good, why didn't it go to production by channel Sandboxx? Well, many things, credit politics, things like that. But yeah, right. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to do more reactions like this, definitely comment down. If you have anything to say, I don't know, comment down. I'll always see comments, and I'll see you next time.